For over 40 years, one car defined Australia like no other. It carried families across the country, dominated racetracks, became the dream of young enthusiasts, and eventually became a symbol of Australia's automotive industry. This is the story of the Holden Commodore, from humble beginnings in 1978 to the final chapter in 2020. By the 1970s, Holden was Australia's biggest car manufacturer. Their large cars like the Kingswood were selling well, but the world was changing. The 1973 oil crisis caused fuel prices to skyrocket. Australians wanted smaller, more fuel-efficient cars instead of massive sedans. At the same time, imported European and Japanese cars were becoming more popular. Holden needed a completely new car. Instead of designing one from scratch, which would have cost billions, they turned to their German parent company, Opel. Using the European Opel Rekord and Opel Senator as a foundation, Holden engineers widened, strengthened, and redesigned the car for Australia's rough roads and hotter climate. The result was something uniquely Australian: the Holden Commodore. The first Commodore, the VB, arrived in 1978. Although Australians initially thought it looked too small compared to previous Holdens, they quickly appreciated its better handling, comfort, and fuel economy. Over the next decade, Holden continuously improved the car. The VC introduced more efficient engines. The VH became one of Australia's best-selling cars. Then came the VK in 1984. The VK featured updated styling, electronic dashboards on some models, and more powerful V8 options. It was also during this era that the Commodore became a legend in Australian motorsport. Winning races at Bathurst made the Commodore more than just a family sedan. It became a national icon. Performance has always been part of the Commodore story. During the 1980s, Holden partnered with Holden Special Vehicles, better known as HSV. HSV transformed ordinary Commodores into serious performance machines. One of the most famous was the VL Commodore. Released in 1986, the VL replaced Holden's traditional six-cylinder engine with the legendary Nissan RB30 straight-six. Even more famous was the turbocharged version. Today, the VL Turbo is one of Australia's most sought-after classic cars. At the same time, HSV released increasingly powerful V8 models that competed directly with Ford Australia's Falcon performance cars. The rivalry between Holden and Ford would define Australian car culture for decades. The late 1980s and 1990s marked the Commodore's golden age. The VN Commodore arrived in 1988 with a much larger body and a powerful new 3.8-litre V6 sourced from America. It became Australia's best-selling car. Successive models like the VR and VS refined the formula. Then came perhaps the most successful Commodore ever made: the VT. Released in 1997, the VT was completely redesigned. It featured improved safety, better suspension, modern styling, and a much more spacious interior. More than 300,000 VT Commodores were built, making it the highest-selling Commodore generation ever. During this era, Commodores were everywhere: police cars, taxi fleets, family wagons, company vehicles, race cars. They became part of everyday Australian life. In 2006, Holden unveiled the VE Commodore. This wasn't based on a European Opel anymore. Instead, Holden spent around $2 billion developing an all-new platform in Australia. It was one of the biggest engineering projects in Australian automotive history. The VE featured independent rear suspension, improved crash safety, more powerful engines, modern electronics, and a stronger chassis. The platform became so good that it was exported around the world. In North America, it became the Pontiac G8. It was also sold as the Chevrolet SS. Many experts consider the VE to be the greatest Commodore ever built. The final Australian-built Commodore was the VF. Released in 2013, it featured lighter construction, modern technology, and arguably the best driving experience of any Commodore. But by then, Australians were buying fewer sedans. SUVs were taking over. Manufacturing costs continued to rise. In 2017, Holden closed its Australian manufacturing plants. The last Australian-built Commodore rolled off the production line on October 20, 2017. It marked the end of Australian mass car manufacturing. Holden attempted to keep the Commodore name alive. The ZB Commodore arrived in 2018. However, it was no longer built in Australia. Instead, it was a rebadged Opel insignia imported from Europe. Although it was a capable and well-engineered car, many Australians felt it wasn't a true Commodore. Sales dropped dramatically. In 2020, Holden itself was discontinued, bringing an end to one of Australia's most iconic automotive brands. The Holden Commodore was more than just a car. It represented Australian engineering, manufacturing, motorsport, and everyday life. From school runs and family holidays to Bathurst victories and burnout competitions, few vehicles have had such a lasting impact on Australian culture. Although production has ended, the Commodore remains one of Australia's greatest automotive legends, and for many enthusiasts, it always will. If you enjoyed this look at the history of the Holden Commodore, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more automotive history, and let us know in the comments, which Commodore generation was your favorite?